And welcome to the Worldview 2 Washington Report for today, April 28th, 2025. Glad you are with us. Joining me, of course, is our co-host, Jim Paff. Jim is in Indiana, but he'll be returning soon to Washington, D.C., and we're leaving, of course, Friday. Headed for the nation's capital, we have passes to be up on Capitol Hill to set up, to interview members of the House and the Senate. We have White House press passes for the week. We have a lot of great interviews set up. And again, we need your support to make it happen because we're going to be bringing this all to you for free as a part of our broadcast programming, news, information, education, and sometimes ministry programming as well, right? We need your support. Please consider going now at worldviewfoundation.com. Help us bring in the necessary funds to not only cover our normal monthly requirements, but also the special project we're doing requires extra funds. So please dig deep this month if you can and help us with that as we leave this Friday. Be reporting to you from our nation's capital. Worldview, we've been working on this for months behind the scenes, by the way, getting all the passes that are required, all the Secret Service background checks, paying the Park Service, the different permits for filming at historical sites. It's going to be great fun, and we look forward to putting it together, bringing you some amazing programming through the spring and summer when we get back and get it all post-edited. Some of it we'll be doing and bringing to you right out of the chute. I mean, some of it will broadcast live from there. Some of it we'll be filming and popping it out to you as well. So you're going to be a part of it, and you make it possible when you go to worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Joining me now is Jim Paff. Jim, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us. So when do you head back to D.C., my friend?
Well, driving back on the weekend, so You'll beat me a little bit, but I'll be there shortly thereafter.
All right, well, we need to make sure that we get together, maybe do this show live in person in D.C.
I think that would be great, and I'd be glad to do it.
All right, let's plan on that. We'll get with you off camera and get that set up and do the Worldview 2 Washington Report live on location. You and I meet, I think, for the first time in person.
Yeah. True. We know it. We have so many mutual friends. It's just amazing. We haven't been face to face, but I look forward to doing that.
Well, and here's hoping you're not like 6'5", right?
Yeah, no.
Okay, good. I didn't want to stand next to him for a whole show if he's 6'5", Logan.
No, but yeah, I was laughing. I'm 6'4", so sorry.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh, for Pete's sake. Logan, will you bring a box for me, please? I was thinking about that earlier today. How tall is Ron Johnson? I got to interview with him. Can we sit down?
We're the same height, if I recall. I don't know what his exact height are, but I think we're about the same.
What did your mothers feed you boys?
Jeans.
Can we sit down for these interviews, Logan? I mean, I'm just going to remind you, not that it really matters, but go look up your most famous Hollywood movie stars. They're all mid-sized. I'm not going to use the word short, okay? They're mid-sized. I've looked them up, trying to feel better about my 5'6", and I'm shocked at how many of the biggest stars in Hollywood are my height are shorter than me. I'm thinking, all right.
I guarantee you most of America thinks Tom Cruise is about 6 foot tall.
Of course they do.
He ain't nowhere near it.
No, he's about my height. And Kevin Hart, not that I recommend Kevin. I think Kevin's shorter than I am. A ton of them are. The guy that was on Danny DeVito. Oh, right. Really? Do we have to go there, Logan? Danny DeVito? Come on. Really? Seriously. We all know that. I'd be a giant over Danny DeVito. How about, how tall is Kevin Hart, Logan? And how about Ben Stiller, his dad?
Ben Stiller.
How tall is he? Stiller, how tall is he? He's about my height. There's a bunch.
I'd have to think he's in the 5'8" range, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that are 5'7". Yeah. How tall is Tom Cruise, Logan? There's a ton of them. I know
I think he's 5'7". He might be.
We're wasting a lot of airtime on this, I know. But I'm just trying to figure. You know why I figured out a lot of those guys went into media like me, and those guys went into media, i.e. Hollywood, because the camera you can't really tell if you shoot it right. You can't tell how tall they are if you shoot it correctly. Number one, but number two, most of them were not on the sports field. Okay, so because they weren't 6 foot or higher and playing sports. They went into acting. They went into theater. They went into the plays. That's also where the girls were. So maybe that's where they went. I don't know. Maybe some of that's where the guys were for them, but I won't go there. But Logan laughed at that. But that's a lot of them couldn't do sports, so they went to theater.
Listen, I grew up in Indianapolis. I am a huge racing fan. And there are many times I regret being 6'4" because those guys are short too. Great race car drivers are very short.
And the jockeys on the horses.
And jockeys on horses,
I was watching a documentary the other night on the guys that were jockeys, and man alive, I'd be a giant next to them. But some of these guys are really wealthy, those jockeys. I'm thinking, you know what? These guys took their shortness and turned it into big, big bucks. So, you know, there you go. All right, let's get back on track. But Logan, seriously, we got to sit down for these interviews or bring me a box, all right?
Yes.
Good grief. What, Logan? Yeah, I have my own choir stool. When I was in high school, I was in the adult choir. And so one of the men in the choir made me a stool for me to stand on. So every Sunday morning when the choir would walk in, I'd pop up on my stools because I was, yeah. So he engraved it with my name and everything with a router, and I still have it. It's in my office. So my kids were like, "What is that?" I'm like, "That's my choir stool."
Well, as we comment, you and I, on politics quite a bit, and having worked in and around it, I judge the character of the person. It's not bad being 6'4" and maybe intimidating somebody when I'm on Capitol Hill or something, but really the real intimidation is the character of the person. And we got people of every height that have no character at all, and so.
Yeah. How tall is Andy Woods, Logan? 6'8", 6'10". It's weird when he and I are together. It's so awkward for me.
There are only two people in my life I went like this when I was standing up to talk to him. And that was Kent Benson, the former IU basketball player, who's a friend of my wife and me, and Rick Smits, the former center of the Indiana Pacers, who years back when I sold cars, he was a client of mine. Those are the only two people I've ever done that with.
Wow. And then there's a guy that's got a ministry, used to be an NBA basketball player, Capitol Hill Ministries. What's his name?
I'm forgetting his name, and I've met him, and yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Well, I had dinner with him one night at CMP, and thankfully we were sitting down. We were all sitting down. But he's a former NBA player, has Capitol Hill Ministries. Look it up, Logan, please. Capitol Hill Ministries. What is his name? But yeah, he's a former NBA player. But like I said, it was good to have dinner with him, but we were sitting down the whole time. So there you go.
Well, I'm the same height as Steve Alford, former Indiana University basketball player who played in the NBA. We're the same height. We were in the same class, too. So who knows? Maybe I missed out.
All right. Well, we're going to be broadcasting together, it sounds like, in D.C., not this week, but the next week. So that'll be great. We'll look forward to doing that. All right. Let's go to, what's his name? Ralph Drollinger? Something like that? Yeah, I remember Ralph, now you say it. Yeah. Hey, I know we're 10 minutes in, we're still talking about Bill's height. Well, you know, here's a guy we can talk about his girth, not his height. The governor of Illinois. I'm going to play this on Brandon. I like that one. I'm going to play this on Brandon House Live tonight, but you were just in Illinois. Listen to what this guy's come out and said.
Upon which history turns. Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now.
These people, they're still going on the LGBTQ thing. They're still going on the full Marxism thing. They're loving on the Islamist. They're calling for violence and disruption, and yet these people think this is how you win elections. I'm very concerned about the midterms, and I'm going to have on my show tonight Dan Eastman, because there's an article written by Jerome Corsi today over at the American Thinker that, again, seems to prove that there's an algorithm running in Wisconsin, and they show the reason why they believe in this last election there was an algorithm running, and therefore it's probably running in other states. But I think people need to understand the chances of, there is no guarantee that these guys don't win the House and or the Senate from hook or crook in this next election.
That's absolutely true, partly because of things like that, which still concern us. I think we need to absolutely ban computer voting machines, touchscreen machines. We can do optical scan machines because we can always validate the paper, but you forget the touchscreens. But the other thing that's going on here is Republicans are really bad at running these midterm campaigns, because they really are not good at winning elections. They win elections on coattails typically, dynamics happening in the country in general, usually around presidential elections, but other factors too. Even in the midterms when they win, there's usually some other factor. Republicans were taking all the credit for the Tea Party wave. The Republican Party had nothing to do with the Tea Party wave.
That's right.
entirely organic, and people. And by the way, I'm kind of can ostensibly call myself a founder, so to speak, of the Tea Party movement. I organized the protest against the spending bill that Obama signed in Denver when I was running Americans for Prosperity of Colorado back in the day. And we saw a wave of people just organically coming out of nowhere. And then groups like mine in the state there and others that were just urging people, you got to do something. Republicans are not good at campaigns. They really, they have a consultant problem. You know, it's not that all consultants are bad. It's just that they favor the ones that will allow the money to flow rightly instead of just being winners. And so there are concerns. I mean, I think everything is in Republicans' hands. It's Republicans to lose, but there's no doubt there are definite headwinds, some of which may be on legal matters like what they might do to the voting machines. And I don't know what's going on in Wisconsin for sure, but it does concern me, I got to tell you.
Well, I was listening to Steve Bannon, and he had a guest on. These guys are really quite upset that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel have not made any high-level arrests yet. Look, we're just a little over 100 days into this administration, and I'm like, you want to dot every I, cross every T, because you do realize you're dealing with judges that are looking for any reason to throw your cases out. So I know that they want to see something by now, and I get that, but I'm quite frankly still hoping that they're dotting every I, crossing every T. Maybe that's wishful thinking on my part, but if I were in their shoes, I'd be dotting every I, crossing every T, so that my case that I made to the court, as well as to the media, including conservative media, would be so that the evidence was so overwhelming the American people would go, meaning that's just obvious. So is that what they're doing? They're kind of come out with absolute home runs, or as some are suggesting, they somehow have been intimidated by or controlled by the deep state. I don't want to go there and think that for 1 minute. Do you?
Well, I don't think either of them are intimidated by it, but there are some entrenched interests still that are hard to weed out of federal government. I mean, it's our biggest problem. We live in a non-constitutional time period where really the bureaucracy runs itself. The president that we elect doesn't even run the bureaucracy. Now, obviously, that we're in better shape in that regard right now because Donald Trump has chosen agency heads everywhere that I think are highly competent and good and capable. So in the case of Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, though, people are going to be really questioning them because Pam Bondi, in my opinion, flubbed up the Epstein file release. Like, don't even do that unless you've got the goods. Don't try to eke out something that is highly redacted that just fits the same scenario as what's been happening with the release of government documents for decades now.
Yeah, that was embarrassing. The night all of those influencers on X walked out with their silly little notebooks that were all redacted. That was so stupid. Some of those people, I quit following them after that. I quit following them. I thought, if you were that dumb to fall for that, walk out there, hold up your notebook. I mean, you had the chance to open the notebook, flip through it, and say, You're like, yeah, you didn't. You walked out there for a photo op, and you looked stupid, and I quit following a lot of them.
Yeah, it was very, very disappointing. And some of them are people that are highly relied on by folks in the MAGA movement and the conservative movement who want to hear and who are very pro-Trump. And it's a frustration. But see, that's why there's a lack of confidence. That was a bad idea. I do not know who made all of the decisions there, but that really screwed things up. Now, Kash Patel, I just want to say he hasn't had all that much time. Like, I don't even think he's been in for a month now, maybe just around a month. And that does take time.
That's a very good point you just made. He probably hasn't been sworn in even a month yet. Yeah,
I think that we do want them to be very thorough. You and I totally agree with that. But I also believe that there are some easy fruit to be picked. There's easy fruit to be picked here, and they really do need, and they do need to start moving on that. And in as it relates to Kash, these arrests of this current and former judge who were coddling immigrants illegally, that seems pretty quick to me on Kash's part. I hope it is a looking forward towards something more substantive and a lot more substantive moving forward. We're going to see, but listen. We need some more results than what we've seen so far. And particularly because, and I'm sure we'll talk about it if we have time, this ABC News poll that is total fake news, trying to say that Donald Trump, with the headline, Donald Trump has the lowest approval rating in first 100 days of any president in history, which is a lie because Rasmussen reports has him at more than 10% above that number. And Rasmussen was one of the most accurate pollsters in the 2024 election. And so they're starting to play the games, and they're starting to get their legs, Democrats are, and you got to counter that with some more good results.
Now, I'll tell you someone who I think, and personally, you feel free to disagree with me, but someone I think is doing a marvelous job with class, with skill, with a breath of fresh air, with authenticity. I think it's Caroline Levit. I think she's doing a fabulous job. Would you agree with that?
I think she's one of the best secretaries I've seen. And to be, I've been in and around this game for 30 years now. I think more than she's been alive. And she's one of the best press secretaries that I've seen. Right. She has her facts. Notice one thing, too. Kayleigh McEnany was, I thought, a really good press secretary in the first Trump administration as well. But she had a 3-ring binder in front of her. She was constantly consulting, just like many do. Caroline Levit has all of her stuff down. She's ready to go. And she'll refer to something every once in a while. It's not like she never does. But she's not bound to that thing. She is really got things down. She's engaged clearly. She's taking on the media in a way just as effectively as Kayleigh McEnany was, maybe a little bit more. No, I'm very pleased with Caroline Levit. I think she's awesome.
And today they seem to have moved, I don't know, it seemed like they moved the White House press briefing to the old executive office building, is what it looked like to me today. Here's a clip of it you can see. And she was taking a lot of questions from the alternative media. And a very interesting question from someone from Great Britain, which is a legitimate question. Listen to this.
In Britain, we have had over a quarter of a million people issued non-crime hate incidents. As we speak, there are people in prison for quite literally reposting memes. We have extensive prison sentences and for tweets, social media posts, and general free speech issues. Would the Trump administration consider political asylum for British citizens in such a situation?
Well, to your latter question, it's a very good one. I have not heard that proposed to the president, nor have I spoken to him about that idea, but I certainly can and talk to our national security team and see if it's something the administration would entertain.
Yes, please.
Wow. What a great question, number one. But again, I want to highlight the room that she's in there for a second. That looks like what was the old Biden room where he had a stage set up.
You're right. I just noticing that. Absolutely.
And I think that's a great place to hold it. It seems obviously bigger, more accessible, more people come in there. I don't know if she did a special briefing that was just for conservative alternative media. It almost got the feel that that's what it was.
Notice that reporter who asked the question sitting right next to a previous Trump.
Exactly.
Sean Spicer, previous Trump press secretary. Listen, I think that is good. They are really trying to open up the media. I think it's going to be a very significant thing that the Trump administration has set the precedent of allowing alternative media away from these absolutely obsequious, corrupt, almost insane sometimes mainstream media. I think it's going to be a fantastic change that if a future presidential administration doesn't continue with it, will cause an uproar, and that'll be to the negative. These are one of those things that you do in a presidential administration that sets a marker for the future that really can help radically transform in a positive way things that have gone awry. And our mainstream media is just a cesspool right now.
Well, our plan is to leave Friday for the nation's capital. We have our press passes for the whole week, and we're being told that we're going to be allowed to participate in these very things, be there on the North Lawn to report, to interview
Where's
people.
Mine?
Well, I need it. Honestly, I was going to ask you off camera, have you applied for your press pass? And if you haven't, okay, Logan, we need to do that, because what would be really nice would be for you and I to do the Worldview 2 Washington report from the North Lawn.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So can we get that in tonight, Logan? Go ahead and fill it out. I know that's after hours for them, but we should go ahead and do that tonight, please. Yeah. Let's get on that. loop him in on an email with our White House contact who was so good to us. Yeah, we're going to be able to report to people and show them firsthand, it looks like, very, very quickly. Let's go to another, Sean Spicer, who, as you mentioned, is the former press secretary in the first Trump administration. He had a great question today. Here we go.
Asked first.
Thank you. The second thing I have is just a question I get a lot, and I figured I'd best address to you. You've done a phenomenal job opening up the briefing room, bringing in new voices. The president's commitment during the campaign to do long-form podcasts was, I think, extremely helpful to this new media environment that we live in. But a lot of conservatives will ask me, why does he sit down with people like Terry Moran of ABC or Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic? What is the rationale behind that, rewarding people who have very vehemently expressed disdain for him personally?
Because the president is unafraid, and he is inspired by competition, and he likes to talk to people face to face. And I think that's one of his best attributes and qualities. We live in an incredibly divisive country, unfortunately, that has been really the result and consequence, frankly, of the fake news and the hoaxes and lies they have driven at this president for the better part of the last decade now. But the fact that we still have a president who has been a victim of these hoaxes, these lies, these smears by so many legacy media outlets and reporters, yet he's still willing to sit down with them, look them in the eye, look them face to face, and take them to task and share the truth with them and his perspective, I think is what the American people deserve in a president. And it's certainly a stark contrast to what we had in the previous administration, a president who was hiding, who actually used this beautiful South Court auditorium, which we're happy to be in today, but he used this like it was a fake Oval Office, weirdly, oddly. He was missing in action. He called lids at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. For those who don't know, a lid is when we tell the press to go home for the night, and he was doing that midday. That is not acceptable around here. I will tell you, we're working very early through the very late hours of the night, and the president's willing to talk to anyone, not just journalists who have really been posing as journalists but are actually left-wing activists, but also if you look at our adversaries and our competition abroad on a foreign policy scale. You know well, in the first term, he went to North Korea. He talked to Putin directly. He talked to President Xi directly. The president believes in direct diplomacy, whether it is our adversaries and competitors around the world or left-wing activists like Jeffrey Goldberg.
Wow. So there they are. There you go. It's exactly what I thought it was, that old rumor. Yeah. I was just guessing, but now it's been confirmed.
Yeah, she confirmed that for us. And listen, Donald Trump is a phenomenon as president. Ronald Reagan, I think, fits the mold, not precisely, but in the sense that he was effective at communicating things, and he did have a pretty open approach to the media compared to other presidents. Donald Trump, though, far surpasses that, any president in my lifetime and in recent history. So fantastic work that happens there, and I am glad she is using that particular auditorium there, because that press room in the West Wing is cramped. It is really kind of tiny, and you don't get a sense of it when you're looking on television. So that gives more voices. It helps them come in, get things done, and I'm just hopeful that after 4 years of this, that the whole concept of what we do in media will change. Of course, Joe Biden shut it down big time, and but the expectation is going to be there, and so let's see what we can get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, what else are you watching right now? What anything on your radar today?
Well, I'll tell you real quickly, and I'm going to just say this briefly just to make a comment. I want to throw it out there as a marker, though. You know, there was this big power outage on the Iberian Peninsula in Portugal and Spain and a little bit of France. I'm really concerned about what that really is.
I'm dealing with it tonight on Brain House Live, but I'm glad to hear you say that, Jim.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if that, being that some of those are NATO countries, what that means, number one. Number two, remember Klaus Schwab told us that there was a big blackout coming. Remember that, Klaus Schwab?
Yeah. Yeah, and listen, again, maybe it was just a snafu that could happen. But I think about the fact that our power grid is highly vulnerable here in the United States. And I just wonder, again, I don't know this, and I'm not throwing out the conspiracy theory just yet, but I'm still looking into it. But you never know if that's someone saying, hey, I just a little shot across the bow here. You may think you're okay. And especially in this era of doing tariffs and other things around the world. So.
100% agree with you.
Yeah.
In fact, here's Klaus Schwab. Remember this? Klaus? Oh, it's going to spin on us, of course.
Oh.
Good old Klaus. Pull that down. We'll refresh it and see if we can get Klaus Schwab to say it without interruption. Let's try it again. I'm going to go to a different feed. Here we go. Let's try this one.
Pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.
Yeah.
So, listen, in one sense, he is right. There's a lot of vulnerability in these power grids. I mean, particularly in the United States, but many areas, the equipment is not, high-tech, first-class stuff because we've mishmashed so many old systems, and that's a challenge to do. So it is a real threat. But the reality is that we have so much meddling in governments and extra governmental institutions. We've got new cyber attack capabilities that could cause real harm. We just have to be cautious. This is a real problem. And there's no doubt that there are people, we know now because of everything we learned about COVID, there are people who are willing to cause massive harm to large portions of human society to advance their own goals and objectives. And we need to be aware of it. So anyway.
No, I agree 100% with you. In fact, let me bring up a story if I can find it real quick. It may be blocked out to me if I don't want to pay, so I'll just bring it up on social media. But take a look at this. EU Observer, April 28, 2025. EU Observer. Prepare a 72-hour crisis survival kit for citizens. EU tells capitals. Well, like I said, we've been talking about this since 2016 as far as telling people to prepare, because there are so many problems out there, including you got knuckleheads like the governor of Illinois and others encouraging people, I think, to be nefarious actors. And remember, it wasn't too many years ago when the FBI put out a report to be concerned about anarchists during the Ferguson riots. Remember during the Ferguson riots in Missouri? The FBI put out
the riots themselves, just the anarchists,
Right. They put out a warning to warn people that these anarchists could go after the power grid, power substations, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to hit too many of those, and you can overstress the whole, one of the three grids, depending on what we're talking about. But I have a guy that's elected office here in the Mid-South. And he said, that power substation? And he mentioned where it was. And I said, yeah, you drive by it. Everybody drives by it. He said, you realize that runs this entire town right here? And I'm like, wait a minute. There's that one runs the whole town? He said, yeah. And how hard do you think it would be for someone to do something with that? I'm like, no, not hard at all. We saw that in, April 2013 when some people shot out the coolant system on the power system in Southern California and took down the power for a period of time. They were able to get it right back up and going to other sites. But FERC, which is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, did a study, brought out some Navy SEALs from San Diego, and they said, this looks like a military operation. They pre-positioned rock piles. They knew where the coolant system was, what to shoot at, take that down. They cut some lines for 911 and camera. They knew how to stay out of the way from cameras. I mean, it was precision. So the American people have no idea what these Islamists, the Marxists, the globalists, enemies, foreign and domestic, are up to. And people should be prepared. If you're prepared, then you can avoid panicking. But if you're somebody that's needing oxygen or medications, then it becomes a life and death issue. I mean, I think we could all survive without power for 3 or 4 days, a week. if most people behave themselves. But if you're relying on oxygen or critical medications, people need to stock up. They really do. It's not a joke.
Well, for all the problems in the 2020 election, and there were many, just the election itself, keep in mind, amongst many things like the Hunter Biden laptop and others, the COVID-19 thing, even with the response that Donald Trump attempted to do in a positive way, that threw him back. And never underestimate that there was a hope in that virus being released by China, as we now believe and have it proven, or at least it came from the lab. All the precise details we may not know, but it came from that lab. Do not underestimate. China was on their heels.
To do that again, to throw us off
something
course.
Of the same order. And that's why this thing concerned me today, because I don't know for sure that that's going to happen, but there's nothing that could take down a presidency like the massive part of the power grid in the United States getting 100%. Taken down.
TheConservativeCaucus.org. That's our broadcast. Take care. Tonight on the Worldview Report, the Prime Minister of Slovakia becomes the world's first head of state to come out with evidence that the COVID shots were spiked with dangerous DNA fragments and other unlisted ingredients. One of the most outspoken survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse turns up dead, and her family issues a statement on the cause. 2 judges are arrested in separate cases for allegedly